then. Developing overnight, arrests following a second night of unrest in Brooklyn Center after a deadly police shooting Sunday.
A curfew in place across large parts of the metro area will last for about another hour. State law enforcement officials held a news conference early this morning announcing dozens of arrests after clashes between protesters and officers. Police say demonstrators hit some of the officers with thrown objects, who then used various methods to try to control the crowds. This, as we learn more about the officer who was involved in the deadly shooting of 20-year-old Duante Wright.
We do have team coverage once again this morning from Brooklyn Center. Ginna Roe will have what we know about the 26-year veteran of the force. We start, though, with Ashley Zilka and the latest on the overnight protests and, Ashley, the response from police.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, hours before curfew, law enforcement said they would have zero tolerance for anyone who wanted to cause harm or damage. So we're at the Dollar Tree. It's a part of a strip mall, and I want to show you exactly some of the damage. It was heavily looted overnight. Now, we can't show you everything because there are just so many inappropriate words everywhere you look. But overall, we know officials said about 40 arrests were made in the Twin Cities last night. Extra law enforcement and National Guard members were added to the streets to control the crowds. Here at Dollar Tree, some looters got inside of the business. At one point, smoke was coming out of the building, and officials said the fire department was called. Law enforcement was able to respond quickly and take people into custody. Officials say that was largely due to the already expanded public safety efforts called Operation Safety Net that had been put into place for Derek Chauvin's trial. Over at the Brooklyn Center Police Department, Colonel Matt Langer with the Minnesota State Patrol said numerous law enforcement agencies were focused on protecting that particular building. People chanted, "No justice, no peace," as law enforcement in riot gear stood inside a fenced enclosure. Officials said there were people who threw bottles and bricks at officers, and those officers deployed chemical irritants and flashbangs to get control of the situation.
At one point, the crowd was pushing against the fence, and the fence gate swung open. There were some fireworks, there were lasers, and there was enough activity to certainly go well against what we've been saying all along that we would not tolerate. And so decisions needed to be made to push that crowd back from the fence and to begin to disperse the crowd and make arrests.
We just want to say thank you for all the people that came out and exercise their First Amendment right in a peaceful manner. Unfortunately, there were those that decided not to do that, and the plans that we had put in place over the last few months were executed.
And Langer said several officers had minor injuries after being hit with objects. He was not aware of any protesters being injured. At this point, it is unclear if another curfew will be issued tonight. For now, reporting live in Brooklyn Center, Ashley Zilka, 5 Eyewitness News.
Ashley, thank you. Now, the looting and the unrest spread into neighboring Minneapolis. Police tell us that overnight they made 13 arrests in connection to everything from burglary to shots fired and curfew violations. We have learned that at least 5 stores were broken into.
And this morning, we're getting a better look at some of the damage done during night one of unrest. Dozens of Brooklyn Center and Minneapolis businesses were looted, leaving owners like Zilka Dawn left up to clean up again. Her Uptown salon was hit last summer as well.
Right now, we're still kind of getting our bearings, so to have more derailment after such a hard year has been pretty unpleasant.
Some businesses made the decision to board up their windows ahead of last night.
The calls this morning are growing louder for the officer involved in this deadly shooting of Wright to be fired.
It comes after the body camera footage was quickly released, showing what the police chief said he believed was an accident by the 26-year veteran officer. Our Ginna Roe is live this morning outside the police department in Brooklyn Center. She continues our team coverage with a breakdown of what we saw in that video. Ginna.
Yeah, Megan and Chris, this was a rare move by the Brooklyn Center police chief. He decided yesterday to release that video, and we are going to show you the moments leading up to Duante Wright's death, but we are not going to show you that actual moment where the officer fired her weapon. But I do want to warn you, this may be difficult to watch. You can hear Officer Potter's voice in that video shouting, "Taser, taser, taser." According to Police Chief Tim Gannon, Potter may have thought she was using her taser when she shot Wright with her gun instead, killing him with a single bullet. Court records show Wright had an outstanding warrant for missing a court date, which is why officers say he was being arrested. Officer Potter is a veteran of the Brooklyn Center Police Department and also the head of the Brooklyn Center Police Union. There are now calls for her to be fired, something the mayor of Brooklyn Center says he supports.
We cannot afford to make mistakes that lead to the loss of life of other people in our profession. And so I do fully support releasing the officer of her duties.
Now, we spoke with a law enforcement expert and former Sheriff Rich Stanek, who explains why law enforcement officers typically carry their tasers on the opposite side of their belt as their firearm.
They have to consciously reach it or pull it out. With your handgun, you want an immediate draw, almost like a quick draw, just like you would think. With a taser, you want a little more forethought because it is so easy to make this mistake.
Now, Officer Potter is on leave right now. That is standard in this case. After the BCA is done investigating this case, the Washington County Attorney's Office will decide if charges should be filed. Reporting live in Brooklyn Center, Ginna Roe, 5 Eyewitness News.
Ginna, thank you. Earlier Monday evening, a vigil was held in memory of Wright at a growing memorial near the spot where he died. His mother, Katie, spoke briefly to the crowd.
He was my life. He was my son. And I can never get that back. Because of a mistake. Because of an accident.
Wright's family has hired national civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump. He is currently representing the family of George Floyd. Our coverage of the Duante Wright shooting continues anytime at KSTP.com. Any new developments can be found there and right here on air as well.